I saw 100 lost seasons, and I saw World Series parades, and I've seen everything in between, and I've seen some of the greatest starting pitchers this game's ever seen come through this building and thrive here. And obviously, as a high schooler, as like somebody that had aspirations, I tried to take what I could away from everybody, but.
With Astros rookie right-handed pitcher Spencer Arrighetti. Spencer, I always start this off because you have to come for your roots, and baseball-wise, how did this journey start for you? When did it pick up that it was going to become official?
I was crazy enough as a kid to tell people back then I was going to do this for a job, and I think I kind of just always believed it a little bit more than I should have, and because of that, I worked extra hard. And I would say, I started playing when I was 11 years old, and I would watch baseball every day on TV. I would make my brothers play with me in the backyard. I got all the video games. I was genuinely obsessed. Like I had one goal in life, and it was do this. And obviously, looking back now, it's like very surreal, and I understand that the statistics were never in anybody's favor to make it this far playing a kid's game, but reality for me is that I was able to, and I'm really, really fortunate, and I'm very thankful. And I think that the journey's been more than I ever thought it could be. And I owe everything I have to this game and to the people that have made it possible for me to keep playing.
You're close to the Houston area and going to high school at Cinco Ranch, even college. Navarro. You're a Texas boy, really.
Yeah.
You did go to Louisiana Lafayette, but
a few months.
But did you come to any of these Astro games back in the days with the players? Who idolized your game after?
I saw 100 lost seasons, and I saw World Series parades, and I've seen everything in between, and I've seen some of the greatest starting pitchers this game's ever seen come through this building and thrive here. And obviously, as a high schooler, as just like somebody that had aspirations, I tried to take what I could away from everybody. But I would say in 17, 18, 19, when we started to get good, I loved watching Lance when he debuted. I loved watching Morton. I loved watching Cole, Verlander, obviously, like all of these guys that have been such staples in starting rotations across the league for the last, as long as I can remember, honestly. Like, a lot of these guys debuted when I was a kid, and now I'm getting the chance to play alongside them or play against them. And it's just really, it's such a crazy journey to go from sitting in the stands, the same stands that I get to look out at now from the mound instead of the other way around. It's just, it's crazy.
And was pitching always kind of like on your radar? That's what you wanted to do, kind of?
Yeah, since I was like 12, I've kind of known. I was a pretty good hitter at one point. I never really considered trying to do it in college because it just takes a lot more, honestly. Reality is playing every day is a lot harder than playing every 5 days, and I've always liked the element of control that you have over a game as a starting pitcher. It's kind of, people look at it as your game, especially at this level. It's your game to influence every 5 days, and I take a lot of pride in that. And obviously my record's not the best this year, but I feel like every time I've gone out there, the goal has been influence it in our favor, give the guys a chance to do what they do on offense and put up some runs and just keep the game close always. So I've always loved pitching. I like, more than anything in this life, I like striking people out. So.
And minor league pitcher of the year last year, being with Sugarland, going into the 24th season, you're regarded as the #1 top pitching prospect in the Astros farm system. Heading into spring training, what was going through your mind going into West Palm Beach? Did you think you had a shot at making the opening day roster? Did you think you had a shot at making your debut this season? What was going through your mind?
I just said a couple minutes ago, I've kind of always been a little bit in over my head. So obviously I think some of the thoughts that I had were in that ballpark, I want to go do the best I can so I can break camp with the team, and I want to impress everybody every single day, every time I pick up a baseball. But reality is that's really not the nature of this game, and especially spring training. It's just for the guys to get going. After the little break that we all take, it's just kind of everybody getting their feet wet again. And I think that I took a good approach to camp this year, and I did what I set out to do, which was prove that I can handle the workload, prove that I can handle big league hitters, prove that I can command the ball a little bit better than maybe I have in the past. And I mean, going into camp, I wasn't too concerned about what the roster was going to look like. It was just more about my own status, or the way that people in the org thought of me on the big league side, just because it was my first time being around most of them. And I feel like the biggest takeaway for me was just getting to start to form relationships with some of these guys that I would end up becoming teammates with not too long after, and just getting a feel for the clubhouse and what the culture's like here. And I think that I learned a lot in spring training, and I've learned a lot every day since then, just being around everybody that we've got, all of these veterans, all of the guys that are finding their way in the big leagues as well. It's just there's been a lot to learn in the process, and obviously I've tried to make this season a lot more about that than anything else, and I think that it's ended up, I've benefited a lot from it because I've been able to learn so much.
And like you said, you were in the stands growing up watching the Astros play, getting drafted by the Astros. Take me to that day when you debuted, though, making your major league debut, getting that call. You know, who informed you that you were going to the big leagues, and who was that first phone call to when you got the notice?
Well, the phone call that I got was from a number I didn't have saved from Deerfield Beach, Florida. And that number is Mickey Stories. I now have it saved. He's our manager in AAA. And Mickey, if you ever watch this, I'm sorry. I didn't have your number saved. I was going to ignore the call and take a nap instead. But I'm really glad I picked up the phone, because it was a call telling him I'd actually just flown into Albuquerque, where I was born, and I lived there a little bit at the beginning of my life. And I was supposed to see my grandparents that lived there for lunch, and I had to end up calling them to tell them that I wasn't going to be able to have lunch because I was going to be on a flight to Kansas City to pitch the next night. So it was pretty cool. I mean, I grew up, I was born in Albuquerque and lived there until 2013, and my grandparents still live there, so I do have a bit of a background there as well. Alex Bregman and his younger brother were actually part of the same travel ball organization as I was. Wow. And I grew up around Alex as well, kind of watching him play and watching him become the star that he is today. And Albuquerque meant a lot to me, so it was cool that it happened there, and it was really cool that my family was actually able to come join me in Kansas City as well. So it was a really special experience.
And I mean, rough and bumpy start to your first debut to mid part of the season. You know, a lot of obstacles in your first coming as a rookie, especially. Tell me, who kind of helped you out through them ways? Like, which teammates kind of picked you up, and then, you know, like, it's still a long journey for you. You're still a rookie. You're still learning. Yeah. You know, what teammates were there, and which pitcher or which teammate, it could even be a teammate, kind of guided you and put you under their wing to help you out?
I mean, I think everybody on the pitching side is going to have their 2 cents when when one of our own is struggling, because we all take such pride in our craft and we know it very well. So I would say, like, during the early struggles, at times I leaned too much on my own understanding even, and I think that's why some of them persisted, was just a little bit stubbornness based on me wanting to do what I felt like got me here and not adjusting to the curve necessarily. But I mean, there was a conversation that I had with JV that really changed the way that I thought about pitching, and I truly, since that day, have kind of incorporated that whole conversation into the way that I say yes or no to throwing certain pitches in the game. Mm-hmm. And Hunter Brown, again, like, kind of dealt with some of the same things that I dealt with in his rookie campaign and in his sophomore season as well. And he's helped me understand how to outlast those struggles, because at the end of the day, we all know what we're capable of doing regardless of what the scoreboard says. And he kind of actually reminded me of something that I had said in an interview when I was in AA after I had a kind of crappy start to 2022. Mm-hmm. I had a really bad April there, and then proceeded to have a 2 for the rest of the year pretty much. So he reminded me that there's a lot more to take away from the work that you're doing in between games than what's actually occurring in the game. And I feel like I kind of just accepted that one day, and it snowballed from there, and that's kind of where we're at now. And I feel like everybody's really been able to help me in different ways. Like, guys specialize in certain things at this level, and maybe they have more information about a certain thing than another, and everybody's got really, really, really valuable advice at this level. Obviously, I mean, I'm like you said, I'm a rookie. I'm still trying to learn the ways. So I just try to take a little bit from everybody.
I have 2 more questions too, because I know your time is valuable. How has analytics kind of play a part of this game into your pitching repertoire, to scouting reports and things like that? Because back then it wasn't like that. Now you're in a new age of baseball, and analytics is really a key factor to it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of been a part of my whole professional baseball journey, just with when I got drafted. I mean, 2021 was definitely not even the peak of it, but well, actually, I think it was kind of past the peak of it. I think the technological revolution of sorts in our game occurred a little bit before that, and because of it, it's kind of all I've known in professional baseball, and surprisingly, you actually take a step away from it when you get to the big leagues, because it's a game. It's, at the end of the day, it's not a video game. It's a game that we play, and we're human, and we make errors, and because of that, the game is a lot more than just the data behind it, but the data behind it paints a picture of how maybe you can get better results in the game. So it's kind of just the two having a balance, more so than it is analytics influencing one thing or another in this game. I firmly believe that it's got to be both. So it's just general traditional baseball feel meets the cutting edge of technology, and somewhere in the middle there's a happy balance where guys play the game the way that it always has been, but play it in a smart way. So
the August that you had was very impressive. 189 ERA, 47 strikeouts, 12.7 strikeout per 9 innings in that month. I mean, you go to Baltimore, going against, on the other side, you had a Cy Young Award pitching and Corbin Burns. Next thing you know, you're going to Philly. That's a 2022 World Series rematch, and you're hitting one of the best offenses in not even the National League, but Major League Baseball. And then to add on a little bit of what you're doing right now, do you know who's the only rookie pitcher that's over you in strikeout per 9 innings?
I know he has less innings than me.
Who is it?
I know who it is.
Paul Skeens, 12.23 strikeout per 9 innings. You're at 11.93. But I mean, tell me, what's been the success that you're having in this later month and really getting closer to that postseason for a deep run into, for the Astros to make the playoffs again?
Kind of just like I said, like not really caring what happens in the game necessarily, and just making my my general feelings about where I'm at in the game, about what I'm doing those days in between. I feel like reality is you only see the work that I've done on the mound, but all the work that I do in between the times where I'm on the mound is what makes all of that possible. So I firmly believe it's just I've found a little bit better process to get ready for games, and I think I feel more prepared for them now, both analytics-wise and my body and my mechanics and everything. So I think it's kind of just a perfect storm of me finally turning a corner in terms of like having a solid routine, having a go-to in terms of what I'm looking for scouting-wise, and then just generally making it more about the next pitch I throw than what's happened up to that point in the game. I mean, even in the game in Philadelphia, there's like pretty glaring stuff that I was like mad about afterwards. Like regardless of what the result is, I just generally feel like there's something to improve upon every time. And when you give up 7 runs, it's really obvious what you want to improve upon. But when you don't, I think it's really easy to get complacent when it's not quite so obvious. And I think a lot of the success that I've experienced is because of not getting complacent and still like picking apart outings that I feel like I threw the ball well in to find where I could throw the ball better. So
lastly, what has been your biggest adjustment throughout your short career in baseball, or it could be just anything generally in life?
My biggest adjustment in baseball so far was trying to be a pitcher a little bit more than I am a thrower, just because I mean I was a big kid and I threw harder than everybody else when I was 12, and pretty much until I was like 16, 17, 18 when other guys started to get big too. And I think that advantage is nice. Like obviously you watch the guys, like the only guy that has more strikeouts per 9 than I do as a rookie throws 100. So there's an obvious clear-cut advantage to throwing the ball harder, and I've had to kind of swallow the pride a little bit and understand that I don't throw 100 miles an hour, but I can make my fastball feel like 100 by actually pitching. So that's really it. It's just like shifting the focus from throwing everything as hard and nasty as I can to throwing it to a good spot and in a well thought out sequence, if that makes sense. It's just kind of playing chess more than checkers. So that's definitely been it for me.
Spencer Arrighetti, starter for the Houston Astros.